you're a barber, you may have seen the new drop from Babyliss Pro, the Nightfall Collection. This is the Lopro FXOne clipper here and the Lopro FXOne trimmer here. So I'm going to take you through kind of the whole collection that they just dropped and kind of go over the details of what it comes with. Babyliss Pro has had different colorways for a while now. In the Lopro series, we have the gray, we have the red, and now we have this colorway, which is kind of like a metallic gray, purple matte, kind of a darker shade. It's really, really nice, especially if you look at it up close. It's got really great detail. A lot of people do love this clipper. It's fairly easy to use. I would definitely recommend this set to anybody that is looking for something new. And with FXOne, of course, it is all battery operated here. So this one is just the housing only. And so if you already use the FXOne, then the batteries that you have will also work into these as well. So it's kind of nice having those interchangeable batteries. For me, it makes my life easier. So it's something that I truly do enjoy. Also new to the FXOne is this one as well. So this is going to be more of your MetalFX style. You have the open housing here for the battery units, but for some people who like this style more, this is also available, which is more of our general MetalFX style in comparison to the Lopro. If you turn them side by side, I believe it's actually the same angle. What's great about a lot of these trimmers is now these bodies are cut off. So you get a whole lot more space in here, especially for people that are doing tight cuts and they want to maneuver around trimmers or the back of the beard, because these bodies are sitting further away from this blade, just like this, rather than old traditional trimmers that used to have the body come all the way up. With those cutouts, it makes it really easy to work these into tighter spaces. So depending on which body style you like, this one I like because it has like the little finger indents, the thumb indent here, and they're fairly small to use. I'd say both of them they feel pretty compact and easy to use. This one, you got your round barrel for people who like more of that round rotation. This sometimes is kind of a nice balance in that way as well. You have your power switch on this side here, and then your power switch on this side here. I mean, what's different here is you have this removable face plate, which is kind of nice to have because it takes even more space out, but also it's an easier way to zero gap your tools and also clean your trimmer blades out, just especially having that open space here. And I also build a really good habit of brushing in between cuts, so it doesn't necessarily ever build up for me anymore, just getting into the better habit of being able to dust constantly so I don't have any hair buildup. And also making sure that I cut typically on dry hair whenever I'm doing any of my clipper and trimmer work. That has helped me kind of avoid any kind of wet hair getting built up and stuck in between these blades. So one thing I do is that I always check clippers, trimmers, all of that, is that I want to make sure I always can see through the blade and that there's nothing building up in between. So if you work in a high traffic barbershop, then typically those blades will build up very quickly. So just keep that in mind when you are looking at your blades, because if they're not moving right, something is probably in the way of it. So I would suggest if anyone has trouble with their blades cutting really sharp, or it's missing hairs, you definitely maybe want to take the blades off, clean them, spray them down, oil them, put them back on, and see if that helps. They should be pretty good. I don't get a lot of snagging, especially if you set them right. I zero gap everything too, so that really helps with avoiding any kind of snag. On top of that, you have your stick shaver. Just like the trimmer, it's the same size handle. So a lot of people do like that. It's very comfortable and easy to use. A little bit different than your typical box shaver. So for some people that like the box shaver, obviously you guys know we have those as well, but this is a little bit newer to the FXOne line. It's interchangeable between foil shaver, trimmer, and clipper. And then you have your power here, your double foil here, 10,000 RPMs. You get this locking feature, which is kind of nice because let's just say you put it in the unlock side. This is going to be great for when you're contouring underneath the chin and the beard. This is going to be able to rotate with the shape of the face. And then if you want to lock, especially for fading, you definitely want that a little bit more tight and not bouncing around, so you have more control, is that you have that locking feature there available too. A button that pops the batteries back out. On all of the FX units, you're going to see all of those red buttons that let you know how to eject all of the batteries. One last thing about this cap It comes on and off. You can put this any direction, so that's kind of nice, not having to put it one way or another. It just pops back on and it's magnetic. Super simple. Also super easy to clean. You just press this part here. Once you press that part here, you can literally take off each of these, throw them in your quats, dust these all off, clean them, and then put them back on. It's super easy to maintain. Pop that back on and put that cap back. So with the FXOne units, the blades that come on these, so on the Lopro Nightfall Collection, you are going to get the Graphite 2.0. This is going to be your deep tooth blade. It's going to be super amazing for cutting through bulk, cutting through thick hair, balding the head really quickly, or cutting through super thick bangs. This is a solid blade, especially if you zero gap it. You're going to notice how well that really grabs. On the MetalFX version, this is going to come with also the same blade, Graphite 2.0. It's going to be your deep tooth, same thing. And then on your Lopro FXOnes, it's going to come with our beautiful MIM Fade Blade. Super amazing blade, great for detailing. Once you have this, you're not going to need much anything else unless you prefer something like a wedge blade like myself. I bounce between the MIM Fade Blades and the wedge blades. So let's just say you love tools that aren't battery operated. You have these two options. This one, as you can tell here, is your regular standard power adapter cord with the option to use USB-C. USB-C allows you to charge even faster. So let's just say this one, the regular pocket, let's just say it takes you about 2 hours to charge. This one, I believe, is going to be faster, like a 45-minute charge to a full. So super great to have. And then also the matching trimmer as well. You get those two options. Unlike the older versions only had the regular port, but now you get that double just in case, depending on your situation, maybe you want a quick charge, that you have that option there. And for the USB-C, I could charge this with my laptop charger. So like my MacBook, I have that super big brick. That'll help charge this even faster by utilizing that port. Less cords to travel with sometimes, and it makes it a little bit easier having that USB-C port. So the two blades that come on these ones, so on the clipper, you're gonna get a graphite taper blade. I haven't seen a taper blade on some of these tools in a while, so it's great to see this one again. I had just made a video about it. If you look at it from the side, they're generally a little bit more beveled, right? In comparison to what we were seeing earlier with the MIM Fade Blade. MIM Fade Blade has more of a flatter, elongated surface right here at the end, right? So on the taper blade, the bevel shape does is that it gives you a whole lot softer of a blend as you're going through it, because as you are doing your C-scoop motions, because of this finish, it adds an extra layer of that softness to your blend. So if you are learning or you're transitioning over to barbering and you don't know what blade you want to use, I do highly recommend a taper blade because it helps soften up your blends, which is one of the things that I think a lot of people fear when they're doing fades, is that it leaves lines. This is naturally going to be a softer finish, so this is a great blade to start with. Not to say that advanced barbers don't like to use this, but once you do like this blade and you get used to it, some people do stick with it. There's definitely people on our Babyliss team that still use a taper blade today. With the trimmer, so no magnetic pocket like the other one. This is a fresh set. As you can tell, I have the little tabs here still. This one comes with also the same blade. Graphite 2.0, deep tooth blade. Again, you want to zero gap these so that you can get the most out of it. I did just recently zero gap the FXOnes, and I'll play that video here in just a second of how I adjust this and this. So you're going to be doing pretty much the same thing with these two as well. Pay attention to that gap. Right, so if you are doing skin fades, it's definitely important to zero gap your tools. But again, you want to be cautious about it. You want to know why you're doing it so that you don't end up taking it too far and slicing somebody up. It's a great feature to have once you are doing skin tight fades. So we'll play that video here so you guys can now see the zero gapping process on a clipper and a trimmer. So I'm going to show you how to zero gap your tools so that you can set yourself up for success. So the first question is, do you have to zero gap? If you are doing longer cuts, you don't necessarily have to. It's just when you want to start getting into skin tight fades where those little millimeters matter, and having the tools adjusted is only going to make the process easier. So let me show you what I mean. This is a set that's fresh out of the box. I haven't used this yet. I just got this yesterday. This is the new Nightfall Collection from Babyliss Pro. This is the Lopro battery operated system. The first thing I want to show you is look at the clipper blade at the top all the way to the closed position. You see that space right there? That's going to be the millimeters that's going to show up in your fade, especially for people who don't know how to fade completely yet. This is going to be really useful for you as a beginner. What you're going to do first is you're not going to take these screws off. You're just going to loosen it so this blade can be adjusted. So now this is where the blade is loose, right? We've loosened it. We didn't take this off. Now this is not the beginner tip most people would receive, but I'd rather people be aware of what they could do so that they know how to fix it if they are ready for that information. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this to the closed position so that way you have a true 0. You want to look and eyeball that. I do everything pretty manually, and I want to wiggle this down just right above that moving blade. Now, if you are new and you're a little bit nervous about it, don't go as close, but definitely go closer than where it is fresh out the box. Once you get it in right, I usually look at it from the left and the right, and then I'm going to go back in while holding this in the closed position and tightening this a little bit at a time so you don't over pull one side at a time. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so for me, I like it super tight because it's what I'm used to already. So it never overlaps the inside blade. You always want to make sure that the top still blade is always slightly longer or sitting right above that moving blade. So what people say is that it could cut people is when you do have a 0 gapped blade like this, I don't usually cut this way on somebody's scalp. I'm usually always in this direction. If I am going this way, usually I use my trimmers instead. This is where it can get a little bit crazy if these blades are overlapped and you can hurt someone. But if I'm cutting in this direction and I make sure that that inside blade isn't overlapping, it doesn't really cut the skin. It's only if you're hitting it like this. So that's why it's really important that when you are cutting hair, you want to make sure that the skin is tight and you're not going against areas that the skin isn't fully stretched. So now that we have this completed, obviously this is going to be the blending portion of your fades that go into your guards, like your 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, and so forth. But now let's work down to the areas that are going to go even tighter, which is going to be on your trimmer. So anything you buy from Babyliss Pro will always come with one of these. All of our trimmers come with a 0 gapping tool. You can use this as a way to 0 gap. I prefer to do it manually, so I'm going to do it manual. But you're going to get this tool and you're going to pull this out. You get this little, it's like a little hex tool, and it looks like this. This is what you're going to get. So what I'm going to do here, same thing, a little bit different than the other clipper, is on this one you're not going to loosen these. You will only loosen this or take these off if you're doing a complete blade swap. But because we're just 0 gapping, you're going to do it in the reverse. So now the screws are on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this and I'm going to loosen these up. And before I do the gap, let's have a look at where it's at. This is again fresh out the box. You guys can see that little bit of space right there, right? So if you want that nice crispy edge, this is what we're adjusting for. Okay, you can see that. So now we're going to loosen those inside screws just enough to move it, right? So now if we do this, this should wiggle just like that, right? So same thing that we're going to do, just like our clipper, is we're going to bring that inside blade out and get it to right where we want it. So see, already you can see it's moving a little closer. I just want to make sure it's straight. So I look at from 45 each direction and I manually eyeball a straight line from there. Again, keeping it underneath this outside blade. You don't want it to overlap. And even if you look at it from the back side, you should be able to see those inside blade sitting right below it, right? So let me adjust this and straighten it out really quick. So now I've got it to where I want to lock it in. So I'm looking at the blade, especially if this is something that I'm using for like lining up beards or mustaches, I want that to hit really nicely. So again, we don't want it to overlap, and you guys can see it sits visually, I would say it's like half a hair strand right below that still blade. Okay, if you see it from that angle, you can kind of see it there. All right, so now I'm gonna lock in the screws and re-tighten each side. Here's a super tight shot of me going a little bit at a time. Again, remember, you don't want to over pull it. You just want to take it easy. And this happens to me for every fresh set I get. I spend like a good 5 to 10 minutes setting up my tools just so I have them ready before I do any kind of cut. Also keep in mind hand pressure. I'm pretty light-handed, especially for fading, you know, easy in, easy out. The harder you put the lines in, the harder it is to take out. So now if you look at it from the front side, you can see that second set of the inside blade is kind of sitting lower, right? They're not completely even. Now if we turn this around the other way, you have that inside blade sitting just below that still blade. So now that we have them both adjusted, they are ready to go. So if you are incorporating a foil shaver like this, I gotta say this one's pretty nice. This is the Nightfall Collection from Babyliss Pro. If you are using a foil shaver or a straight razor, it is critical to have a zero gap trimmer to be able to buff out that line. One of the hardest lines to get out is that first skin line and also the line going into longer hair. So having this adjusted blends out this line, and then having this adjusted blends out this line, and then from here and everything up is a little bit easier to blend. So now that you've seen the FXOne Lopro clipper and trimmer being adjusted, you guys now have the option to do it again. You don't have to do it if you're not doing skin tight fades and you're just still getting used to doing regular fades with like a number 1 or a 0.5. But if you do end up doing skin tight fades, I do suggest doing a zero gap. You're going to notice a huge difference, especially for those who have never done it at all. It's not something they teach you in school, but it's definitely something you learn in the barbershop. Having the tools adjusted just means that you don't have to apply so much pressure. Everything connects into each other. And again, your skin line is going to be with this foil shaver, which is going to take that hair all the way down to flush to the skin. And in order to take this bald line out, you need that zero gap trimmer that you don't have to apply a lot of pressure because you set the blades correctly and it's able to get those little stubbles. And from there, that zero gap trimmer is going to connect to your zero gapped clipper. And then from here on out, it's gonna be a little bit easier to do with the longer lengths as you go on. So this is the new Nightfall Collection by Babyliss Pro. Shout out to the team for getting me a set of these. Drop your comments below on what you guys think about the new Nightfall Collection. If I were to do a giveaway, which of these sets should I give out?